Our latest survey from the last quarter of last year reveals that actually the skills crisis has widened to include other trades such as plasterers, roofers, electricians, right across the board, which is obviously having an impact on the construction industry and posing a problem for small construction companies because costs are going up.
What's behind that? Is it that there's a lack of supply, or is it that demand has increased and supply isn't there to cope with it?
Well, it's both. There has been a strong demand since the recession, and that hasn't levelled off since the EU referendum. And during the last recession, we lost about 400,000 people from the construction sector, and those people haven't come back. So there is a serious shortage of skilled labour, which we're still trying to address.
Is it that a lot of the skilled workers are actually retiring and they're not being replaced by younger people? Is there a problem with recruitment into the industry?
There is a problem in terms of image. Attracting young people to come into the building industry and losing a lot of skilled people towards the end of their careers. What we need to be doing, of course, is promoting construction as an attractive career in terms of encouraging young people to come into the industry.
And yet, presumably, these are quite well-paid jobs on the whole. I mean, how much does the average plasterer get paid?
Well, it varies across the country. Certainly in London and the South East, we know bricklayers earning £60,000 because there's such a shortage of bricklayers. That will only increase now right across the building trade. So good opportunity there for young people wanting to come into the building industry to earn good money.
What proportion of people working in the industry are EU workers who might not necessarily be able to work in the industry in future?
Yes, that's interesting. Overall, it's about 12% across the UK, although it's much higher in London and the South East. And obviously, that's going to have an impact if there's going to be any restriction on labour movement coming into the UK, which does pose another problem at a time when we've got a serious skills crisis, which is why we need to be thinking about in terms of vocational training. But in the short term, I think the government is going to have to look at this very seriously and make sure that we're allowing construction workers to come into the UK. Otherwise, we won't be able to build the homes that the government has said are desperately needed.
But shouldn't the industry be doing more to train people up itself?
Well, we are in the industry. We're now promoting the value of apprenticeships. We're trying to encourage more employers to take on apprentices. The government is working with us. I think there's a recognition that we need to get more people into the building industry and we need to develop quality apprenticeships.
Is it the case then that the industry has been falling back on migrant labour when it could have been doing more previously?
Well, certainly this happened in the 1990s after the late 1980s recession. We relied very much on migrant labour coming from Europe. We can't rely on that anymore. We need to actually train people in this country to come into the building industry. It's a serious wake-up call, but it's come at the worst possible time.
And the shortages to which you're referring, are they national or are they more marked in certain parts of the country over others?
Well, it's national, but certainly in London and South East, where there's an acute demand for building work, there is a serious shortage, which is why we've been heavily reliant on EU labour. What's
the impact of this likely to be on inflation? What's it likely to be in terms of the cost of building new homes?
Well, if labour is going to go up, that means the cost of projects is going to increase, which means homes, when we've got a desperate shortage, are likely to go up. So this will have an impact on inflation.
But anecdotally, are house builders passing on these costs to home buyers at the moment, or are they absorbing the hit themselves?
Well, I think at the moment, particularly the SMEs are probably sort of trying to absorb the cost, but they won't be able to do that in the coming year or so. So those costs will translate to the consumer, which is bad news at a time when house prices are probably at an all-time high.